Hey everyone, welcome back. Here's a guide for Beastmoon Mayhem. It's a special event on Wizard101. It comes out once a month and it lasts for about a week. I'll be showing you a run that I finished about 5 minutes ago. My team finished with 17 minutes to spare. That's incredible timing. We could have honestly fit 2 whole games of Mayhem within that single run. So the reason I'm making this guide is because a lot of people come up to me and complain about Beastmoon Mayhem and say it's too difficult. You know, they run out of time, the enemies are too strong, or they just generally don't understand how to play. And I'm here to tell you that this mode is actually super easy. If you follow these steps, you will win every single time, guaranteed. So without further ado, here's my guide for Beastmoon Mayhem. Enjoy. First, you gotta pick a good form, and here's where I see a lot of people making mistakes. You want to pick a very powerful hitter, and that's because in Beastmoon Mayhem you're against the clock, right? Your biggest enemy is the timer. You never want to run out of time, because once you run out of time, it's over. You want to avoid healers, shielders, and generally weaker forms at all costs. Here's a list of forms I recommend, and here's a list of forms I do not recommend. A lot of people say that you should pick Fire, Storms, and Myths, because those are generally the more powerful schools in the game. However, that's not necessarily true. For instance, Balance Croc and Death Pig are two very, very good choices, even though they're not necessarily in those 3 main hitter schools. Also, if you want to play very, very carefully, then maybe even avoid some fire forms, just because damage over time takes a while. Yeah, so anyways, you'll notice that I chose Mythrat for this particular run, just because it has incredible offensive output, and also its 250 AoE hit is incredible in Spiral Fight, which you'll see very shortly. So in Beastmoon Mayhem, there's 3 waves. In every single wave, there's 3 outside fights, and as soon as all those 3 outside fights are complete, the spiral fight in the middle unlocks. The one tip that I cannot stress enough is to always 2v2. You never want to 3v2. You always want to pick your hit within the first 3 seconds of the turn. You never want to see that clock go below 17 seconds. You'll notice every single turn I either use my trolls for 250 damage, or some of the smaller hits for 125 damage, or I pass. I'm never using a minion, I'm discarding all my non-hits, and you never want to use any shields. Ideally, you won't pick a form that has shields, but let's say all the other forms are taken, and you're stuck with like Ice Colossus or something, then make sure you discard all your shields, do not use them. Great, so far you know to pick your hitters, you know to 2v2, and you know not to waste the clock every single turn in battle. And if you do all those steps, you'll breeze through the first wave easily, right? And now we're moving on to Spiral, as you can see. Contrary to what everyone says, Spiral Fight is actually the easiest fight in Mayhem if you do it correctly. So what my team does is we have a couple bladers and we have a couple hitters. In this case, we have 2 storms blading, we have a storm elf, and a myth rat for hitting. And the hitters want to use AoE spells to attack all enemies at once. Myth rat and storm elf are excellent options for hitters in Spiral, just because they can use their AoE on round 2 once they get their 4th pip. Another interesting thing that you'll notice is that we purposefully put the boss in 2nd position. You know, if you put the boss in the last position, that way if you take the enemies out first, then you have turn order advantage over the boss in the turns that follow. So something as simple as dragging the weakest enemy first into combat can help you so much in the long run. And for the 2 members of the team that are the outside fights, you always want to go for blades first. You know, it kind of changes depending on which map you're in. Right now we're on the Mirage map, and it's the battle on the right-hand side. That's the battle that gives Spiral Fight the failing spell, so you want to prioritize that one. And again, avoid getting shields or heals for Spiral, because again, those waste the timer. You only want to be hitting or blading. It's extremely important that you stick to your role and that you do exactly what you're supposed to be doing. So in my case, I'm a hitter. I should be discarding every single thing that is not the AoE hit. That way I increase my odds of pulling that AoE hit so I can use it round 2. And same exact thing goes for the bladers. The bladers want to discard all their non-blades, right? Because they're not going to be hitting for now. So you want to discard everything that's not a blade and make sure you get as many blades as possible. Different blades too, so they can stack, and just throw them on your hitter so they can just bust out a massive AoE on that 2nd turn. Also, do not forget to get the extra time, right? In every single map, there's a hidden clam or flower or whatever it is that grants you 2 extra minutes, and someone on the outside of the Spiral Fight should go searching for that extra time after they provide Spiral with the blades. Don't go looking for the clock first. The blade matters so much more, trust me. Communicate with your team, so if you find the extra time on the outside, make sure to let your team know. Say got time or found time or something, just so 2 people on your team don't go looking for the same time at the same time. That was so bad. Here's the Efreet with a stack of blades doing mass damage. Notice we also got a balance boss. This is purely luck. The boss could be one of many schools, and balance by far is the easiest to fight. Yeah, so far this is running perfectly. Both AoEs were used on round 2, so at the beginning of round 3 you'll notice the boss has 300 health. That's super phenomenal. We should take it out very easily and move on to the next wave with so much time to spare. Since the extra 2 minutes were just found at the very end of the fight, you'll notice that we finished wave 1 with nearly 5 minutes left to spare. If you complete wave 1, which all of you should if you follow this strategy, you'll get 12 extra minutes added onto your clock. So now we're starting wave 2 with a little over 16 minutes. You should only buy extra battle cards for your spells that have the highest damage per pip. In this case, it's my Efreet and Troll. But of course, it depends on your form. Just gonna fast forward a little bit and I'm dead. If you die and flee, or if you die and 3 rounds have passed, you'll lose your form and you'll have to pick another one. So watch closely as I don't flee and have another teammate of mine join the battle to finish the opponent. And since it hasn't been 3 rounds of me being dead, I get to keep my form, which is super nice because I did not want to lose Mithra, especially in the higher waves when my AoE is super important in Spiral. You'll notice that wave 2 is extremely similar to wave 1. Pretty much every single thing is the same, except you will notice that the enemies get a little bit stronger, and Spiral Fight includes 1 more enemy. I got pretty lucky and pulled my AoE on round 1, that way I did not have to panic and try to pull it on round 2. So again, make sure your team has a hitter or 2 that have an AoE hit which can attack all enemies, and make sure you're dragging in a weak enemy first, not the boss. That way, again, you'll have that turn order advantage when it's only you and the boss. Since I made sure to communicate with my team, they all know that I have my AoE in my hand, so they're all going to give me blades for my big hit. So on turn 2, I'm able to bust out an extremely powerful AoE hit. It does 875 damage to all enemies and wipes out every single thing except the boss, which we could then take out pretty shortly after. So at this point, wave 2 has been completed with over 10 minutes to spare, which is pretty incredible considering that you get an extra 14 minutes added to your clock at the beginning of wave 3. So now we have 24 minutes to complete wave 3, which is pretty crazy. Wave 3, of course, is the wave where I see most teams fail, and the reason for that is because, again, they 3v2, they think that they should take on stronger enemies by piling on more teammates in each battle. That's not the way to do it. You're only wasting time again. You still want a 2v2. I cannot stress that enough. Also, the difference between wave 2 and wave 3 is that wave 3 has stronger enemies. The outside fights during Spiral have 1 more enemy, and the Spiral fight itself, again, has an additional enemy. So Spiral's going to have 4 enemies, 1 of which is the boss. Now we're starting Spiral fight with 21 minutes on the clock. That's a whole lot of time. Again, I'm picking my cards super quickly, or I'm passing, and I'm also making sure I discard everything that's not my AoE spell, because I want to bust out my AoE on round 2. Another perk about this strategy is that you kill the minions so quickly that they don't have a chance to kill you. My entire team takes barely any damage. So now I select my Efreet AoE, and just watch how this round turns out. And keep in mind, this is only round 2. With enough blades, you deal out devastating damage. Now that all 3 minions are gone, it's going to be smooth sailing from here. All we got to do is take out the boss, and it's going to be super easy because he only has a little bit of health left. The Stormwolf stuns are super helpful here too. Something that's actually pretty funny that you'll notice is that our team is so coordinated that we did not need the outside spells to help us at all, right? You'll notice Phalanx gets casted on us after the 2 hits, which we didn't need. If anything, that's actually hurting us, stalling time, so. That was an insane run right there. We finished Spiral on wave 3 with just under 17 minutes on the clock. If this guide was helpful, go ahead and like this video. Also comment on anything you agree with or disagree with. If you have a better way to do Mayhem, let us know in the comments. And if you haven't yet, please do subscribe to my YouTube channel. It helps me grow a lot. I really appreciate it. And I'll definitely be posting a lot more Wizard101 content going forward. And yeah, that's about it. So go win some games. You got this.